left to right. Russell Westbrook.
You love the Philadelphia Eagles. Let me get a hell yeah!
What's going on, guys? What's happening? It is Deibs, Mr. Crockpot on Twitter. Welcome to Party on Broad. On tap for today, we're going to talk everything NFL free agency going on with the Philadelphia Eagles. Tampering starts in just a couple of hours. Free agency is in 2 days. Joining us today is Jack. Follow him on Twitter at JackConnellTPL. How you doing, Jack?
I'm doing okay. It's very weird times upon us. Just trying to get back in the swing of things, of everything that's going on.
It's crazy, man. These are some crazy times. Everyone's in lockdown mode for the next 2 weeks. Look at Twitter, like Adam Schefter reporting that all these teams are upset that they're continuing with NFL free agency. What's your thoughts on that?
It's a good thing for us, but it's very hard for them because they can't get players in for physicals or really face-to-face meetings, anything like that. You look like the Eagles have shut down their facilities, and a lot of teams have followed suit. So there's really not much they can do face-to-face wise, but it's a good escape for fans, something to watch and follow, but it's really not very productive for NFL teams who have been following these protocols.
It's all just crazy. You want to plug your post-position pod before we get started, man?
Yeah, we're hopefully trying to get back. We're all just trying to figure out ourselves currently. I think we're going to get back in the swing of things later this week, Wednesday or Thursday, somewhere around then. We should get a new episode up and going, talking about, what's the NBA going to be from now on. But you can follow us on Instagram, Twitter, at postpositionpod. We had one a little bit back, but again, it's kind of been a bit. We'll hopefully get back to swing of things soon.
All right, so let's get started. We have some news happening today. I'm going to run through it. We have some Eagles signings happening today. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk a little bit about the quick new CBA that they just agreed upon and how that affects the Philadelphia Eagles. We're going to talk about Byron Jones, Amari Cooper. We're going to talk about Eagles free agents, and we're just kind of finish off with just some bold predictions on what we expect to go down over these next 2 days. Let's run down the top news of the day. Got to lead off with the Dallas Cowboys placed a franchise tag, an exclusive franchise tag on Dak Prescott. The Bengals placed a franchise tag on AJ Green. The Titans placed one on Derrick Henry. The Vikings reached a 2-year deal with Kirk Cousins, and linebacker Christian Kirksey signed a 2-year deal with the Green Bay Packers. And the Chiefs placed a franchise tag on Chris Jones. No shock there. Any quick thoughts about any of those, man?
I don't really think there's anything really surprising there. The only thing is they kind of still have the ability in Dallas to work out a deal with Dak Prescott. So the interesting thing with Ryan Tannehill getting his deal yesterday, it's starting out $29.5 million. So you guys expect Dak is going to expect to be paid a lot. Yep. So expect a very lucrative deal for Dak going forward from the Dallas Cowboys. I think that's the main thing. Everything else was kind of expected. Bud Dupree, a lot of these guys are kind of just staying put. Like you mentioned, like Jones, like a lot of these guys are kind of just staying put. And AJ Green, I don't think that was really. I kind of am surprised at his age he was franchise tagged, but I expect him to remain Cincinnati. I didn't expect him to go anywhere else. But Christian Kirksey going to Green Bay, these are really not many of the shocker deals yet.
Not yet.
Devontae Freeman, that was kind of an interesting one getting cut by Atlanta. He got cut. They saved him about $3 million in cap space. So that'll be an interesting one going forward for Atlanta, who they're going to roll with at the running back spot. But
awesome. We have huge news. The Eagles made a huge signing, bringing back Hassan Ridgeway to a 1-year deal. That's huge, right?
It's game-changing.
So Hassan Ridgeway signs a 1-year deal. He will return to the Philadelphia Eagles. He played 7 games for the Birds last year, 2 sacks, 4 tackles, 4 quarterback hits. If I had to think of one take with the Hassan Ridgeway signing, it means that Timmy Jernigan is likely done with the Philadelphia Eagles. What's your take on the signing?
Yeah, I think with Malik Jackson returning and it's just the overall depth and youth they have with the roster, I think his time is done in Philadelphia. He's kind of declined with his injuries. He's very injury-prone defensive tackle, and it just saves you some cap space. And it's an easily replaceable spot. I just think his time's done in Philadelphia. It's just he's run his course, and it's really not worth the value that he's being paid.
I fully agree. Adds really good depth to the Eagles' defensive line, and it's one thing that I'm really excited about next year because we were kind of robbed of the Malik Jackson, Fletcher Cox interior defensive line there. So hopefully both of those guys stay healthy. All right, so let's talk a little bit about the new CBA. Basically, the cap is now $198.2 million for 2020. It gives the Eagles around $40 million in cap space to play around with when the league starts on Wednesday. All right, so the NFL is moving to a 17-game season, which will start in 2021. 4 preseason games will move down to 3. How do you think the NFL is going to work? You know, you're not going to have that 8 home, 8 away game season anymore. What do you expect with that?
I think there'll probably be some sort of split every other year between the division, or there'll be some aspect where every other year you have either another home game or another away game to your season. So I expect that to be in some facet just like that. I think there's just too many games where you can just do it in a neutral site or over abroad. I just don't think that's really realistic at this time just yet. But another thing is kind of the move up at the start of the regular season. You're probably going to see it start late August, early September, because they probably want to keep the Super Bowl and how they have everything at the end of the season still how it is. So I would expect towards the beginning of the year be much more earlier start. And I think that would be an interesting thing. I don't like the whole idea of that in the playoffs. I mean, if it isn't broke, don't fix it. I mean, I get adding another bye week, but if it's 17 games in one bye week, I feel like that's just not very productive.
Right on. And we're going to have a 14-team playoff. Only the top seed gets a bye. The roster gets expanded from 53 to 55. Game rosters go to 46 to 48, which helps, the Philadelphia Eagles, injury-ridden teams like the Philadelphia Eagles. But I think the biggest storyline of the CBA here, it makes that release of Alshon Jeffery a little bit easier to swallow. Because what's going to happen is Howie Roseman's going to be able to spread that dead cap space of $26.1 million in dead money over the next 2 years. So if Alshon is released on June 1st, which I think is pretty likely at this point, he's going to get $16.5 million in 2020 and $9.4 million in 2021. Is that what you expect?
I mean, I would expect that. I think he's not going to be on the team either way coming in the next year. I think you could see him possibly maybe get moved to a team that has a lot of space that's desperate for a receiver. If somebody major strikes out in the wide receiver market in free agency, maybe you could see something going forward with that. But I don't know. I mean, I think cutting him would be the likely option. But I think you just need to get over and done with now if that cap hit, if you're going to do it this year rather than next. Or you could just put him on the PUP and just keep it how it is and just not pay him, or not play him, that is. I mean, just continue to pay him as part of the team, which I don't know if that's what he's going to want, but it could play it a lot of different ways. I'm really interested to see how it goes.
Awesome. All right, so let's talk about free agency. What are your top positions of need in free agency for the Birds?
I would say linebacker, offensive line depth, and backup quarterback.
Okay. When I look at just strictly free agency, I see major areas of need. I'm looking at the Eagles needing at least 2 cornerbacks. They need 1 safety, maybe 2, depending on what happens with Malcolm Jenkins. They need a defensive tackle, a linebacker, and at least 1 veteran wide receiver. Not all these guys. I'm not expecting like stars at any of these positions, but that's how many guys they need to bring. And when I think of free agency, I think of the secondary or the back 7, because you have Gary, Edwards, and Riley at linebacker, Maddox, Jones, and Douglas at cornerback, LeBlanc at nickel, and then Jenkins, Epps, and Ford at safety. Woo! Man, that is a really terrible back 7. That's an area that we're going to really get into soon, because I made a list of players that I want to target. That needs to be addressed. All right, so let's talk about Byron Jones, because he is the sexy name of these next 2 days for the Philadelphia Eagles. Dude, are you in or are you out on Byron Jones?
I'm out. I'm all the way out. I don't like it at all. I'm very against major cornerback signings in all facets unless it's a completely generational defying cornerback talent. I mean, it's just, you've seen so many times it's blown up in your face. Just Nnamdi Asomugha, Byron Maxwell. It's just, I don't like it. I don't think it's a good idea at all. It's just too much money. He's going to command about half your salary cap space that you're going to want, and I don't think he's worth it at all. I mean, that's nothing against Byron. I just don't like the cornerback market at all. I think it's a lot more of a developmental. You can groom guys to fit your need. Look at Crevon LeBlanc. I mean, look at a lot of these young, cheap guys that fit perfectly in what they need, and they really haven't had to pay them much at all. I don't think he's worth $20 million at all. I mean, I think you could spread that cap so much better throughout your team. I just don't think it's needed.
Yeah, man, I keep going back and forth with this. I think it depends on the money. Obviously, leaning towards no. I am out. on Byron Jones. This has the potential to be one of the biggest overpays in the league. I'm not arguing that Byron Jones wouldn't be an upgrade in that Eagles secondary. He clearly very well would be. But the Eagles need playmakers, man. And the Eagles' struggles against the big play in 2019 is exactly what I'm talking about. I've gone on and on about this with my draft profile picks, especially at cornerback. But in the last 2 seasons, the Eagles' top 5 cornerbacks averaged just over 1 takeaway per year. The Eagles allowed 16 pass plays over 40 yards last season. It's not good enough, man. The Eagles need playmakers in that secondary, and Byron Jones just isn't that. Can he tackle well? Yes. Is he athletic? Yes. But he's not a playmaker. And when you start hearing that negotiations are beginning at $18 million for Byron Jones, man, that's crazy considering he's had 2 interceptions the last 5 years. And can he stay healthy? Yes. So that's a plus. But you could easily upgrade 2 positions on defense with that amount of money. It's amazing how the Eagles are essentially being penalized for being terrible in the draft regarding Sidney Jones, Rasul Douglas. I'm definitely leaning towards out.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's really not. I think you can get one in this draft if needed, and I think you can get cheap options, or you can just continue to grow with the guys you have. I just am not very in on Byron Jones at all.
Yeah, Pro Football Focus loves Byron Jones, but you got to remember, though, they also love Vinny Curry, and they called Vinny Curry a top 5 pass rusher in the league last year. What was your take on that?
I don't think Vinny's going to be a guy. I mean, you could see him back for cheap, but I think he's going to not initially be retained just because you want to keep your salary cap for other options. I think you're going to see a lot different group in Philadelphia this upcoming year, but I don't think Vinny Curry is really going to be a part of it.
All right, let's stay on that Dallas Cowboy train. What are your thoughts on Amari Cooper? Are you in or are you out on Amari Cooper, man?
Depends how much he's asking. He made his cap hit was $13.9 million this past year. He's going to want a lucrative high deal. You got to think Dallas is going to be strapped up very tightly with Dak Prescott. They're going to want to pay him, but it's just I don't know how much they're going to be willing to pay him. So he's 25 years old. This is his payday. This is going to be the biggest contract he's going to make in his career, and he's probably going to want $20 million plus, in my opinion. He's going to want an incredible deal. If he gets that, I don't know. But there's probably a lot of hungry teams in this market that are looking to pay him. You can look at a team like Buffalo. There are a lot of teams that could use wide receivers that could throw a lot of money towards these guys. Indianapolis, if they get their guy quarterback, they could look to add some more options alongside T.Y. Hilton and Eric Ebron. That's another possibility. I don't know. I mean, if he's looking north of $20 million, I'm out. But if he's a guy at $17, $18 million, I mean, I just talked about Byron Jones, but I mean, Amari Cooper is a guy that's shown to be good. He's very young. He's 25. He's going to be in his prime. I might try to do it. I might try to do it. You want to get Carson Wentz your options? And listen, it's like, oh, well, you can only have to get worried about drafting 1 wide receiver instead of 2, which allows you to open up more options to get after cornerbacks, go after linebackers, defensive line, offensive line. Something to keep an eye on. I don't know if they're going to aggressively chase him, but if his options are slimming down, you throw an okay offer at him, a little bit more of what he's getting right now, I think I might do it.
All right. I'm out, man. I'm out. Like, I understand Amari Cooper is a really good talent. I'm not debating that. But it's time to get younger here, man. The Eagles need to, especially in a heavy wide receiver draft, there are so many talented wide receivers. I would love to double dip on wide receiver in this draft, especially in the top, at least 2 in the top 3 rounds. But, man, Amari Cooper is a good player. Would I be upset if they signed Amari Cooper? Of course not, but I just don't see it happening. I really, really don't. And the interesting thing, though, is Elliott Shore-Parks just reported that Amari Cooper, if he is available at noon, the Eagles will be checking in on Amari Cooper. So there you go.
Yeah, I would like him, but for the right price.
Yeah, I fully agree. All right, let's talk about some Eagles free agents. Nelson Aguilar, are you in or are you out? Go ahead, man.
I was going to say I'm in and I dropped it, so I'm out.
Yeah, definitely out. Vinny Curry, he's 31 years old. In or out?
Out.
I'm on the fence. Curry had 4 sacks. He played really well in that second half of last year. If you can't find anyone to bring in, maybe strike out in the draft, in free agency, he would, on a 1-year deal, bring him back. I'm in. Ronald Darby, 25 years old. Go ahead, man.
depends how much he's asking for, but I'm likely leaning towards out.
Out. I never understood bringing him back in the first place. 8.5 games last 3 years. No, get out. Camus Grugier-Hill, 25 years old.
I'm in. He's an incredible special teams necessity. He's been a captain for this team. He's a good linebacker depth, and he's very underappreciated. And I think he's somebody I would definitely want back on this roster.
Fully agree. I'm in. Jordan Howard, 25 years old. In or out?
I would like him, but he's going to get a lot of money we can't afford to give him. With Boston Scott and everybody else, and Miles Sanders, no, I'm out.
I'm on the fence. Depends on the money, right? The Eagles need that thunder to Scott and Sanders lightning, and Howard could be that guy. When he's healthy, he was great. Just depends on the money. I don't know if he's going to accept taking less money to come back. Timmy Jernigan, 27 years old. Where are you at?
I'm out.
Definitely out. I think Jernigan is not going to get paid here. He's a solid third defensive tackle in the rotation. I liked when he's healthy, he can really make an impact on the defense, but it just doesn't happen. Josh McCown, 40 years old. Go ahead.
If he's on a minimum, I'm in.
Okay, I'm out. I'm fully mentally and physically ready to draft a quarterback, groom a young quarterback in that third, fourth round range. Jalen Hurts, man, what are your thoughts on it?
I would like that. I don't know if I put a third round pick on him. I think there's a lot of good quarterbacks you could look at later on in this draft, like Shea Patterson, somebody interesting. So I don't know. I don't know if I'd put a third or fourth round pick on a quarterback. Nah. I would do like a fifth, sixth, seventh rounder.
All right. Rodney McLeod, he's 29 years old. In or out?
In. He's such a big part of this defense this year, and yeah, he's going to be getting up there in age, but he's somebody that's crucial in this locker room and part of this team, so I want him back.
Fully agree. The Eagles have no depth here at safety, and McLeod is just such a good player. For the value you're going to find in free agency, man, just bring him back. Do the Eagles need to draft a safety? Of course they do. They need to groom a young safety here. But, man, you look at McLeod, you look at Jenkins, bring those two back, man. Those guys are just kind of the rock of the Eagles defense. Jalen Mills, in or out?
Depending how, this is all about depending how much. But I mean, if he's looking at cheap, I'd bring him back. He's a good guy in the culture for Philadelphia. He's still young. He's still developing. It brings that energy. If he's cheap enough, I'd bring him back.
I'm in. Eagles absolutely need to bring in young, fast cornerbacks, but Jalen Mills, he's a veteran. Jim Schwartz loves him. They can't just start, rookies across the board on offense and defense next year. Bring him back. Big V, 26 years old. In or out?
I'm in. This is the thing. You got teams are like Cleveland has been very interested in him. He's gonna likely get a pay to like a starting tackle. So if for some reason he doesn't get that, if a lot of teams pick up other options, I'm back in. But I can't. I would love him, but he's gonna get paid, and I'm happy for him, but I just don't think we can be able to afford that.
Exactly my thoughts. He's a great backup, but Eagles won't be able to afford, a backup tackle getting starters money. Ain't happening. He's out. All right, so let's talk about our top target free agents for the Eagles when it starts on Wednesday. Go ahead, man. Who's a target that you're looking at for the Eagles in free agency?
We kind of talked about him before, Nick Kwiatkowski. I like him. He's a very solid dude, somebody that's interesting going forward for this team. Robbie Anderson, it's another interesting one. I know he wants to stay in New York. That's another possibility. It's one that's been heavily linked for a while. Just overall, offensive lineman depth, it's just something I would like. Defensive line depth, like you said, a safety. I don't really have specific names. I have positions of need. And I think Nick Kwiatkowski, would be a great linebacker add for us, that we talked about before. Yeah,
man, Nick Kwiatkowski, man, he's one of the top options for the Eagles at linebacker. He's aggressive. He's versatile. The Eagles love that about defense. But man, they could also use him in nickel packages. I really like Kwiatkowski. I really hope the Eagles bring him in that 4 to 5 year contract range, 20 to 22 million. That'd be perfect. Address the linebacker position. Another target I have is Kendall Fuller. He's a cornerback. You just watched Kendall Fuller just, dominate in that Super Bowl. But he was just, this is a guy that can play inside, outside, has that versatility we just talked about. Just a solid run defender. He played 11 games last season due to a thumb injury, but he's about to turn 25 years old. He'd just be a really good option for the Eagles. What are your thoughts on Rashad Perriman? Go ahead, man.
Rashad Perriman.
He's a speedster.
From Baltimore. He's in Tampa Bay. I remember from Baltimore. I'd be interested. I don't know. Again, I think I'm either looking at a Robbie Anderson, a pretty solid wide receiver 2, or Amari Cooper stud, or I'm just going to the draft. I think Perriman's a wide receiver 3 option, so I don't know if it's looking cheap. May go for it, but I mean, I'm not willing to commit a lot of money to him because he's likely not going to be a heavy option for Philadelphia, in my opinion.
He's just on a 1-year deal. He would be a really interesting player because he's fast. He's a burner. He can play on the outside. He's 6'2". We kind of had a really good stretch last year in that second half of the season. He wouldn't break the bank. Just an interesting guy to just kind of keep in mind because he's a home run threat, and he was drafted by the Ravens in 2016 and by Andy Weidel, who was the regional scout with Baltimore, who is now the Eagles vice president. So just something to keep, a name to keep an eye on. Another one I have is safety Anthony Harris, 28 years old, in case the shit hits the fan with Malcolm Jenkins and Rodney McLeod gets paid elsewhere. Anthony Harris would be a really interesting addition to the Eagles. He's 28. He's 6'1". He's you love Pro Football Focus, but he was the top-rated coverage safety in 2019. But he would be a really good upgrade from McLeod. He's a playmaker. He gets interceptions. He had 6 interceptions last season, 9 over the last 2 years. McLeod has had 8 interceptions over the last 4 seasons. So that would be an upgrade. And I have one more target for you, and that is Desmond Trufant, a cornerback. He's 29. He's been with the Falcons his entire career. Loads of tackles, 13 interceptions, lots of forced fumbles. He only played 9 games due to a broken forearm last year. But man, when he's playing, he's a really effective cornerback. And he was coached, keep this in mind, he was coached by Marquand Manuel, who's the Eagles' new defensive backs coach. So just another name to keep an eye on. So any thoughts on those guys, man?
I mean, Anthony Harris, he was pretty solid in Minnesota, undrafted free agent in 2015. He's kind of developed very well under Harrison Smith and the rest of the secondary. David Rose, who just got cut. I think that might be an interesting option for the Philadelphia Eagles, a cornerback possibly. I think Desmond Trufant's going to command a lot of money. And like I said, I mean, he's going to be 29. That's kind of, if it's a 1-year deal, but I don't want to be paying a cornerback into his 30s coming off injuries. Broken form is always something that's a one-time thing. It's not really a lingering issue, but it's just, I'm not really keen on paying many cornerbacks. I'm not a big cornerback paying guy. Anthony Harris, it's an interesting, I think it could be a solid in-between option. If things were to go bad with Malcolm Jenkins, I think that's somebody to keep your eye on. But I mean, Trufant, I think I'm pretty much out on. But I do like Anthony Harris.
Awesome. All right. You're on the clock, man. What is your Eagles prediction for free agency on Wednesday? Go ahead.
On Wednesday, I don't think you're going to see a lot of heavy-hitting moves right off the bat. I think you're going to see a lot of things move slowly forward. I think you might see Malcolm Jenkins make out a deal. I don't think you're going to see many. The Eagles are going to be making a lot of moves between the lines, in my opinion. They're going to, and obviously, many teams will do their due diligence on these big guys, but I don't think you're going to make any major deals. I think you'll just see some small intermediate moves, and the draft is really when we're going to see things happen.
I think Byron Jones is pretty much a lock. I think the Eagles are going to bring in Byron Jones, get him done, get him locked in. I think we're going to see that. I think we might even hear news about that pretty soon because tampering starts in 30 minutes. I also think the Eagles are going to start doing some 1 to 2 year deals, kind of like they did back in 2016. Right before that Super Bowl run. I think that's what we're going to expect. Kind of veterans on 1-year deals, kind of all over the place. Nothing major happening on Wednesday, but that's kind of just my general prediction. Any final thoughts, last comments before we wrap it up, man?
I'm more excited about the NFL draft. I mean, they just announced it's still going to be going forward as is, just without a crowd. It'll be still in Vegas mid-April. So that'll be very interesting to see going forward. I'm really excited to see the loads of talent that they have in wide receiver or quarterback. I really am excited to see what the Eagles end up doing. And major theory. I don't know. They said the Texans might trade DeAndre Hopkins if they're stuck as they're in draft hell if they need somebody.
Wow.
I mean, how many of our picks would you give up to get DeAndre Hopkins?
A lot.
I don't think it happened. I'm saying it happens. It's just a what if.
Yeah, I mean, he's one of the top wide receivers in the NFL. He's incredible. I would probably give up quite a bit to get DeAnthony. He's fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I would probably, for Hopkins, I'd probably give up your first through third round picks.
Okay. If he's available, that is a surefire number one wide receiver. Do it. They're not going to get anyone in that first round. Everything all signs point to Ruggs, Lamb, all the top 3 wide receivers being off the board when the Eagles draft at 21. I've been leaning towards trading back actually in that first round, early second actually for the Eagles. But my final thoughts on this is I'm just happy the Eagles and free agency is here because there's nothing happening in the world of sports right now. So the last 2 hours of Adam Schefter tweeting out free agency news has been probably the best 2 hours of the last 4 days.
Yeah, it's definitely been a nice change of pace of things that are going on.
All right. Make sure you follow Jack on Twitter at JackConnellTPL and check out his NBA podcast called Post Position. Go Birds, I guess?
Go Birds.
Go Birds. For Jack, for myself, thanks for watching, guys. Stay awesome.
Swing and a miss, struck him out. The Philadelphia Phillies are 2008 World Champions of Baseball.
And the Sixers win it! Wow! Oh, man, and being just posterized Russell Westbrook.